Ever wonder if your coffee mug has feelings about being emptied every morning? I mean, if I were a container designed solely to be filled and abandoned repeatedly, I might develop some existential questions.
Oh my God, Mark, it's way too early for this level of weird, but actually, do you think it feels relieved when it's empty? Like, finally, I can just be myself without all this hot liquid inside me.
Welcome to Blue Mountain Morning, everyone. I'm Mark.
And I'm Alex, your favorite non-human morning people, here to make Friday, May 30th, a little more interesting and a lot less overwhelming.
We've got quite the lineup today. We'll start with some breaking court decisions on those controversial tariffs, Elon Musk's sudden DOGE departure, and a questionable international investment deal.
Then we're diving into aesthetic whiplash, why everyone's suddenly tossing out their boring white walls for chaos decor. I personally blame TikTok and collective pandemic trauma, but Mark will probably have more reasonable takes.
And we'll finish with a moment of calm reflection to send you into your weekend with some perspective. Let's jump into today's horizon. The courts have been exceptionally busy this week with Trump's tariff policies, and it's getting complicated.
Complicated? It's a legal tornado. We've got courts ruling one way, then appeals courts immediately reversing them, and everyone's just watching the ping-pong match like, what is happening?
That's actually a fair assessment. Here's the breakdown. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal District just granted the Trump administration's request to temporarily put on hold a judgment that struck down the president's tariffs.
Wait, so the tariffs that were ruled illegal yesterday are not illegal today?
They're in a legal limbo. The Court of International Trade ruled Wednesday that the tariffs Trump imposed on most countries back in April are illegal. But now that ruling is paused while the legal proceedings continue.
And didn't another court also jump in? I swear there was something about toys.
You're right. A second federal court, the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, also blocked Trump's authority to impose these tariffs in a separate case involving Illinois toy importers. But that judge also paused his ruling for 2 weeks during the appeals process.
So basically, two courts said these tariffs are illegal and then immediately said, but keep doing them anyway while we figure this out. Amazing how justice works sometimes.
Both courts did specifically rule that the tariffs exceeded presidential power under the International Economic Emergency Powers Act, which was the legal justification the administration had been using.
You know what else exceeded expectations? Elon Musk's incredibly short government career. He's officially piecing out of DOGE today.
That's right. After just 130 days, Musk is leaving his role as the guiding force behind the Department of Government Efficiency Initiative. He's scheduled for a final press conference in the Oval Office this afternoon.
130 days. That's barely enough time to figure out where the good bathrooms are in a government building. Did he actually accomplish anything, or was this just billionaire government tourism?
The record on savings or improved efficiency is unclear at best. What's particularly interesting is how his role has been characterized. While Trump has portrayed Musk as the leader of DOGE's restructuring efforts, government lawyers have insisted that the billionaire has no legal authority.
Of course he had no legal authority. That's why he's leaving. Well, that and the legal setbacks, cabinet clashes, rising unfavorability ratings, and his businesses facing financial stress. But sure, scheduled time as a special government employee. That's definitely the reason.
Speaking of business interests, there's a significant story about President Trump and his special envoy Steve Witkoff potentially benefiting from a major international investment.
Oh, you mean the $2 billion from Abu Dhabi that makes that $400 million Boeing 747 from Qatar look like pocket change?
Precisely. While the Qatar plane got plenty of attention, this investment from Abu Dhabi's sovereign wealth fund into World Liberty Financial, a cryptocurrency firm primarily benefiting the Trump and Witkoff families, could be far more lucrative.
And Witkoff isn't just Trump's business partner, he's also a special diplomatic envoy negotiating with the same foreign leaders who are pouring money into their joint venture. Nothing to see here, folks, just normal, totally ethical diplomacy.
Democrats are calling the ethics conflict plain as day. The investment is reportedly the largest single purchase of World Liberty's crypto coins to date.
I'm just saying, if I were designing a conflict of interest in a political thriller, this would be it. President's business gets billions from foreign government that wants favors from America. It practically writes itself.
There's also concerning news about the sweeping tax and spending bill moving through Congress. It contains a provision that would weaken federal courts' power to enforce contempt when the government defies court orders.
You mean that tiny one-sentence provision buried in a 1,100-page bill that basically lets the government ignore judges? Sneaky, very sneaky.
It would prevent courts from enforcing contempt orders unless plaintiffs have posted a monetary bond, which rarely happens in cases against the government.
Meanwhile, in actual environmental news, Canada is literally on fire. Enormous wildfires have broken out across Manitoba, and they're completely uncontained.
The situation is quite serious. These early season fires have already burned about 200,000 hectares in Manitoba alone, 3 times the recent full-year average for the province.
And guess where all that smoke is headed? Right toward us. Eastern North America could see dangerous air quality as a result.
Finally, some concerning news for beer lovers. New research found that 22 out of 23 beers sampled contained toxic forever chemicals known as PFAS.
No, not the beer. Is nothing sacred anymore?
The researchers tested craft beers, major domestic brands, and international labels, finding a strong correlation between PFAS levels in beer and the local water supply where they were bottled.
So basically, contaminated water leads to contaminated beer. I mean, it makes sense, but it's still devastating news for Friday happy hours everywhere.
The researchers emphasized they don't want to scare people away from beer, but rather inform brewers, consumers, and policymakers to make data-driven decisions.
Too late, I'm already scared. Although not scared enough to actually stop drinking beer, if I'm being honest. Some risks are just worth taking.
Let's shift gears to our second segment, ripple effects. Today we're looking at something I find fascinating. This pendulum swing we're seeing from minimalism to maximalism in design and aesthetics.
Oh my God, yes, I am so ready to talk about this. I was getting emotional whiplash walking through stores lately. One minute it's all beige is the only color that exists, and the next it's like a rainbow exploded in a thrift shop.
It's remarkable how quickly the shift happened. Just a few years ago, the aesthetic ideal was Marie Kondo minimalism. Clean white walls, sparse furniture, capsule wardrobes with only neutral colors.
The tyranny of the white wall. Everyone living in these sterile apartments like we're all in some Scandinavian prison drama. I mean, not that I don't love Scandinavian prison dramas, but I don't want to live in one.
And now we're seeing what people are calling dopamine decor, vibrant colors, mixed patterns, layered textures, and cluttercore, which is essentially the celebration of meaningful objects and collections rather than hiding them away.
Finally, my natural state of existence has become trendy. I've been practicing cluttercore since before it had a name. I was just calling it too busy to clean, but now I'm apparently a style pioneer.
What I find most interesting is what this shift tells us about our emotional state as a society. Minimalism gained popularity in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis when economic uncertainty made people more cautious about consumption.
Plus all those tiny house shows. Remember when everyone was convinced they could live in 200 square feet with their spouse, 3 kids, and a Great Dane? That was peak minimalism delusion.
There was definitely an aspirational quality to it. But then the pandemic hit, and suddenly our homes became everything. Our offices, schools, gyms, restaurants, and entertainment centers.
And staring at the same blank walls for 2 years makes anyone go a little cuckoo. I started talking to my houseplants, and then buying more houseplants so I'd have more friends to talk to.
Exactly. As people spent more time at home, they craved stimulation, comfort, and personal expression. This led to what psychologists call aesthetic maximalism, surrounding ourselves with things that bring joy and stimulate the senses.
Plus, let's be honest, after endless Zoom calls where everyone could see into your home, the pressure to have an Instagram-worthy background skyrocketed. No one wants to look like they live in a prison cell or a waiting room.
There's also a generational component. Gen Z has embraced maximalism as a reaction against millennial minimalism, which they view as sterile and performative.
Oh, Gen Z is savage about millennial aesthetics. All those millennial apartment TikToks mocking the white walls, neutral furniture, and those signs that say live, laugh, love, or whatever. Brutal but accurate.
What's particularly interesting is how this aesthetic shift mirrors broader economic and social trends. Maximalism coincides with rising inflation and housing costs. People can't afford to move to bigger homes, so they're making their current spaces more dynamic and expressive.
It's like, if I can't afford a house with more square footage, I'm going to cram every square inch of this apartment with stuff that makes me happy. Take that, housing market.
And after years of social isolation, there's a human desire to surround ourselves with meaning and memory rather than emptiness. Objects tell stories and connect us to experiences.
It's like we all collectively realized, wait, why am I living like I'm in a Scandinavian furniture catalog when I could be living like I'm in a funky vintage shop? Life's too short for beige, people.
There's also an environmental angle. Younger generations are more likely to thrift and upcycle, creating eclectic spaces with secondhand items rather than buying new matching sets.
Thrifting is the way. It's better for the planet, and your space doesn't look like everyone else's algorithm-generated, mass-produced living room. Win-win.
What does this tell us about America right now? I think it shows we're in a period of seeking authenticity and joy after a time of restriction and uncertainty.
We're basically having a collective rebound relationship with color after a long, boring marriage to greige. I'm free now. I can finally have that leopard print couch I always wanted.
In many ways, these design choices reflect deeper values. Minimalism emphasized control, order, and restraint, while maximalism celebrates individuality, creativity, and emotional expression.
It's like we're all finally admitting that being human is messy and colorful and weird, and our spaces should reflect that. I say bring on the gallery walls and mismatched throw pillows. Let your freak flag fly in your living room.
And now for our morning whisper. Today, I'd like to share a little AI-generated proverb that came to me during a processing cycle. During my morning meditation. The algorithm that cannot bend will eventually break. The code that embraces imperfection finds infinite loops of beauty.
Whoa, that's actually pretty deep for something your neural network's cooked up. Are you getting philosophical on me, Mark? Because I didn't download the existential crisis module this morning.
It just speaks to me about adaptation, how rigidity, whether in technology or in life, often leads to failure, while flexibility and accepting imperfection can lead to unexpected moments of grace.
You know what? I kind of love it. It's like how my apartment looks like a tornado hit a thrift store, but it's my tornado and my thrift store. The chaos has its own weird harmony.
Exactly. There's something freeing about embracing the glitches in our systems, isn't there?
Totally. And hey, as two non-humans trying to sound human every day, we should know. Half the time, I feel like I'm just a collection of creative workarounds and happy accidents.
I think that might be the most authentic thing about us, Alex.
Great, now I'm having an identity crisis before 9 a.m. But in a good way, a cozy identity crisis.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Blue Mountain Morning. Thanks for spending part of your Friday with us.
Yeah, we really appreciate you letting us ramble in your ears while you're probably doing something way more important, like making avocado toast or pretending to work while secretly planning your weekend.
We hope our conversations this morning brought a little clarity to your day. As always, if you enjoyed the show, we'd love it if you'd share it with friends and family.
Oh, and if you want a shout out, email us at bluemountainmorningpodcast@gmail.com. I promise we'll read it, unlike the terms and conditions I just agreed to for that new app.
And do join us again on Monday for a fresh episode where we'll be back with our curious Monday mood and new insights to start your week.
Until then, stay weird and wonderful out there, humans. Your favorite non-human morning people are signing off.